Hello, everybody. All right, so welcome to the Mikestand. I hope everybody's having a good evening. Of course, we reached the middle part of the week, which, as everybody knows, it's Hump Day. So happy Hump Day to everybody. Um, let's take care of this real quick. Hey, Zenu and Zena. All right. Hey there, JR. Let's see now. Hey, Zenu and Zena. Hi, Mike, and all. Hello. If you guys haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to come in and engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. So it looks like JR, you're here, so we at least got one other person here. So, and I guess I'll talk about what's on tap for tonight already. So we're gonna go over one article from Bounding into Comics. Um, an opinion piece in regards to the Rippaverse, featuring, of course, Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett. Also, of course, we'll be doing, of course, the rest of the wrap up a little later on. Well, this day in each history. I hope you guys had a chance to catch last night's show. And we went over the voice acting career of Hal Smith, who was pretty well known. Um, Voice, pretty much was known for one of his more well known roles was, of course, as Santa Claus in a number of Christmas specials, particularly for Hanna Barbera. Also, Yappy and the King and Yippee Yappy and Yahooey, as well as being, as well as for a time taking on the roles of both Al and Pooh in the late 70s, early 90s, including um, Welcome to Pooh Corner and the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. With that, let's see. Why don't we go ahead now then and get ready to get started on the article itself? As I said, if you guys haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here we talk about grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let's see now. All right, so here we go. All right. So this is going to be the one article we're going to look at tonight. So let's see. Opinion. After the success of ISOM, can comic vets Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett's Alpha Core deliver another hit for the Rippaverse? Now, as we know, that success may be a little stunted because there's a huge issue going on with the term ISOM right now. So, article by Mark Clare, published yesterday. So let's get into this then. Let's see. All right. All right. So, anyways, continuing on here. Okay. For some, Eric July may be best known as the lead singer of the band Backwards. For others, a regular political commentator on The Blaze. Others still as the 500,000 subscriber having host of For Canon's Sake, a YouTube show largely dedicated to criticizing woke messaging in mainstream comics. More recently, he's become known for doing what very few ever venture to do, looking to grow beyond being a simple critic. July decided in 2022 that rather than just complain, he was going to be part of the solution regarding comic book industry's bleeding and dissatisfied customer count. And thus, the Ripaverse was born. As everybody knows, Eric July is the real name of YouTube personality Young Ripa 59. So, anyways, as we continue on here, as I said, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the question best of my ability. So there's the ISOM character. And despite the best attempts of its detractors to kick up a storm about the price of the line's books or label its fans a quote unquote hate group, the Riververse has been nothing short of a financial success. The line's flagship title, ISOM number 1, had a huge first day launch back in July of last year, eventually amassing over $3.7 million in sales. Its follow up issue, ISOM number 2, also rocketed out of the gate with almost $1 million in sales within the first 48 hours of its campaign being live. Interest in the title was eventually able to carry the book to a final pre-sale pull of $2.3 million in sales. $2.3 million in sales. However, while ISOM number 1 and number 2 showed the comic book industry what July and the Ripaverse could do as a creative force, one could argue that Alpha Core number 1 presents an opportunity to show what July can do as a full-on publisher. So Eric is sitting there delving into a number of different fields, publishing, writing, creating. He's getting he's putting his hand into a number of different cookie jars. Where, as of writing, Ripaverse Comics has announced that orders of Alpha Core number 1, with writing and art by industry veterans Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett, have begun shipping, having sold over 10,000 pre-orders for over $1 million. The book's success marks the third time in as many launches that the fledgling publishing endeavor has breached the 1 million mark in pre-orders alone. So as a publisher, he seems to be doing quite well for himself, doesn't he? Albeit he's got some issues right now with the International School of Ministry over the ISOM name, as we covered a few months back, a couple months ago. But guess we'll have to just wait and see where all that turns out to. Alrighty then. So, anyways, and if you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, feel free to comment and or ask questions if anything here grabs your attention. But while July may have any creative deficiencies with his first foray into writing with ISOM, no such excuses will be accepted for the pair of industry veterans, both of whom have been the subject of quote-unquote cancel culture attack due to their political beliefs. that make up Alpha Core's creative team. Mm-hmm. Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett, of course. Chuck Dixon. Okay, well, its author Dixon is well known for his work across Marvel, DC, and independent publishers like IDW, having had signature runs on characters like the Punisher and Batman, the latter of which included the creation of Batman villain Bane, quote unquote. Likewise, Bennett has an equally storied career as an artist, with runs on major books like DC's Teen Titans and Marvel's Amazing Spider-Man, and most recently Immortal Hulk, tucked under his belt. Of course, unfortunately, that was until it came out that he did some political cartoons bashing the Bolivian president, in which some of the higher ups at Marvel did not take kindly to. ah, the latter was his last mainstream American work before Marvel seemingly blacklisted Bennett due to a political cartoon in support of then Brazilian President um, Jair Bolsonaro. And while the credibility lent to the Rippaverse by these two industry stalwarts is no doubt an upside to this partnership, their addition to the team will also, and perhaps more importantly, energize the creative forces needed to further develop July's Floor Spark, Texas-based franchise. All right. But what do we actually know about Alpha Core? Let's see. All right, time wise though. All right. All right. So the Alpha Core team has already been introduced to Rippaverse readers through brief appearances in both of ISOM's thus far two books. In ISOM number 1, we first meet the Alpha Core team as they attempt to apprehend Yaira, another character making her debut appearance ahead of her own series debut in 2024. We even get names for the team's three all green clad members. Brian Solari, who appears to be the leader, the energy cable harness wielding Ingrid Valdez, and the shaded helmet wearing Brackwell. Okay. We learn little else about Alpha Core until ISOM's next issue, where we see the team in their floating headquarters high above Floorspark. Therein, Solari addresses the team about the quote unquote disaster that was their failed pursuit of Yaira. The team argues a bit in this scene, and we get the sense the team has only recently come together. And there's Yaira fights back in Alpha Core number 1. We don't learn an awful lot about these characters from these appearances outside of the fact that they are in pursuit of Yaira and generally um, seem to be surveyors of quote unquote excerpts. The term of the superpowered beings or accepts, quote unquote, the term for superpowered beings in the Rippaverse. However, we can glean a little more insight into the plot of Alpha Core thanks to the Riververse campaign page for the book. According to the available preview pages, it appears the book will see the titular Accept team um, called in to take care of Accept related problems that the Floor Spark police are too outgunned to handle. Um, but not everyone is a fan of their superpowered heroics, with both villains and heroes finding the team's methods to be less than conductive to their respective goals. Hmm. Which is a common theme in a lot of it's been a common theme, I think, for the past 40, 45 years, where the idea that you get any kind of superhero team up going on, supernatural being hero going, team up going on, and those in power become afraid that they may be overrun by those powerful beings. It's kind of like the idea, we've seen that with things like Cadmus in the DC universe. I think there was even something in Marvel with it as well. So, um, as such, when an investigation into the thwarted bank bombing uncovers a string of murders except except um, Solari, Braxwell, and Ingrid Valdez must work together, both their supporters and detractors alike, to must work alongside both their supporters and detractors alike to uncover the identity of the perpetrator behind these crimes. Truth be told, the plot description doesn't provide much to indicate this to be anything more than a standard government superhero team type of tale. What we were talking about earlier. But the intrigue lies in a compelling storytelling experience that both Dixon and Bennett um, have been shown to be capable of. After all, Dixon has seen critical acclaim scripting intriguing government spy drama during his G.I. Joe run with IDW. Of course, before IDW lost the license, of course. But of course, they had already got rid of, I think, Dixon even before they lost the license. So Bennett has drawn just about every significant character from the big two you can think of over his 32-year career in the industry. As a general fan of July, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that ISOM has some of the best writing I've ever seen in my 30 plus years as a consumer of superheroes. However, I will tell you that it did provide me with something fresh, something original, and something I hadn't quite seen before, which is more than I can say of the vast majority of the modern mainstream comics. Again, as we've talked about, of course, instead of creating new characters or creating, if they want to push agendas, creating new characters to push those agendas, they just take, um, IPs that they already have and just make changes to it just willy nilly. It's like, you know. But again, a theory I've thrown out there is that the reason they instead of creating their own characters to do it as opposed well instead of creating their own characters, why they are using the existing IPs is to make the lifestyles that they want to push seem cool. Try to normalize it, as it were. Oh. Anyways, Moving on here. Will Digton and Bennett be able to take the Rippaverse to the next level? The answer remains to be definitely seen, but $1 million or so that and so says or so says that many fans are excited to find out, myself included. There's Eric July right there with that big black beard of his. Huh. All right, so let's see now. All right, so that's it for that. Now, again, I initially was just planning on doing this one, but let's see where we're at on time here. Maybe I can find something other than, of course, the historic the indie comic showcase I'm gonna do tomorrow. But the 21 minutes now. So let me see if I can find another article here. All right, what am I doing? Let's see what we may be able to find. Let's check this one more time here. See if there's any. Oh, here's something. Here's something in the. And this kind of a. I think this looks like a follow up to a story we're kind of following as well. So I guess I'll do this one since we have time here. And if you guys haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So with that, let's continue on with this one. Um, so, comic book pros mock deny complaints from veteran shop owner regarding abysmal state of market. Quote, his business is dying because he refuses to change with the times. Basically, what they're saying. Spencer McCooley. Well, no, they're dying because nobody wants to quote unquote change with the times. The people who actually buy your book are not going to change with the times. All right, so, and of course, this article is by, let's see, Spencer McCooley, published earlier today. In the latest instance of fan and retailer complaints concerning the uh, state of the industry falling on deaf, I guess deaf ears is what it's supposed, if not unnecessarily combative ears. Um, okay, I see. Falling on deaf, if not necessarily combative ears. A number of comic book professionals have responded to the public plea from a veteran shop owner um, over the quality of Western publishers' current output with not consideration, but rather outright derision and mockery. Of course, Phil Boyle, and then there was another guy who just came out with it as well. I think we were talking about both of them. Let's see now. All right, so the latest round of discourse was first kicked off on December 1st, courtesy of the 42nd and latest episode of the Comic Palace Reborn. So yeah, that's basically the other guy, not Phil Boyle, but the other guy we were talking about. Um, a in smaller quote slice of life YouTube series run by the owner of the eponymous um, Haverhill, Massachusetts retail store, Glenn O'Leary. which documents the day-to-day interactions he experiences with customers in the shop. And that's the guy right there. In fact, when Yellow Flash was covering this guy the other day, they were talking about how people were just they weren't even addressing the points he was making. They just went off on him. They just talked about everything except the points he was making. They were mocking him. They were making fun of him. They said, "Well, he's fat." Is the next thing. In this episode, among the many individuals who speak to O'Leary is a customer referred to only as Mike, who and no, it's not me. I'm all the way across the country in California, just for those who were thinking, just in case you thought that. Who during his time with the shop owner took the opportunity to lament the fact that Western comic book publishers, particularly Marvel Comics and DC, quote, keep watering, in brackets, their books down, unbracketed, or unquote. Quote, I don't know if it's watered down or if it's just kind of repeating the same stories in a different show, in a different way, unquote, said Mike. I got a lot of surprises from the indies, unquote. Quote unquote. Now we were just talking about one independent publisher in Eric July, who's actually doing quite well for himself. We also know some of the success stories like Ethan and Skyver and a lot of the people involved in Comicsgate. Let's see now. All right, so let's see now. Let's continue on here. Let's see. In turn, the show then cuts to find O'Leary offering Mike even further examples of the industry's wanton mistreatment of the very properties they've been tasked with shepherding, beginning with his declaration that Marvin villain, quote, the Hood, was a fantastic character, and then they just made him idiotic, and they ruined a great character, unquote. Quote, unquote, the shop owner continued, the Hood comes out of nowhere. Believe it or not, that idiot, Brian K. Vaughan, I believe came up with him. The guy from Saga, the guy that can't get a book out on time, right? Unquote. Or, right? He used to be a brilliant writer and a worker, but now he's just a lazy chump, unquote. Now, I know that on Critical Blast last night, RJ had, on the Blast from the Bunker show, a show he does with the guy from Sci-Fi for Me. They had Dean Hunter. I don't remember the guy's name, but he was talking about how now this is one of the other issues of comics nowadays is all these self-inserts, right? We talked about it in a self-insert a while back with Whoopi Goldberg, right? A lot of these self-inserts. But anyways, let's see. All right. Oh, so they get the Hood going. He is a main part of the Marvel Universe, main part of the villains, unquote, O'Leary further detailed, ostensibly referencing Brian Michael Bendis' subsequent use of the villain as a major antagonist for his new Avengers. Quote, that storyline ends, he just kind of disappears. Then he goes after the Infinity Gauntlet gems. Gets a couple of gems, but he's just an idiotic clown, and then he disappears, and in brackets now, he shows up once in a while, unquote. Proceeding to pick up a copy of the villain's then recently published appearance as an opponent to the eponymous Spirit of Vengeance in Ghost Rider Annual Volume 3, Number 1, O'Leary then closed out his specific thoughts on the Hood by declaring, quote, "So I'm hoping they do him well in this book," unquote. All right. So here's some of the artwork, I guess. Ah, all right. If you haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, so we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Well, as we continue on with it. However, this brief moment of optimism was far from the end of O'Leary's thoughts on the overall topic. Prompted by his own recollection of the Hood's less than respectable publication history, the, the shop owner then turned to decry how, quote, now, brackets publishers, just make idiotic characters most of the time. They finally got somebody good, and then they stopped using them. I don't know why. Change of the guard, maybe. Then again, maybe a different change of writers. Unquote. Could be. His attentions now fully focused on the industry at large, O'Leary then speculated that this overall decline in the industry's quality was due to the fact that, quote, writers nowadays, they don't care about who or what the character is anymore. Most of these new writers don't have a love of comics like these older writers had. And I know Yellow Flash, when he covered this story, pointed that out as well. That is kind of the case you're seeing there. Anyways, all they care about is, quote, how do I put myself in the book? And again, I know that this was talked about on RJ's show last night as well. Oh yeah, and we see a perfect example of this, Starfire's daughter, right? I know this got a lot of heat over the fact that the writer of this book essentially put herself in the book. I mean, we've seen it before too, as I said, with Whoopi Goldberg as well. To this end, the shop owner declared, quote, no, we don't care what you would do if you were Iron Man. Of course nobody does. We don't care who you are. You're writing Tony Stark. You're not writing yourself in a book. If that's the case, write your own comic with you in it. No one will read it because nobody cares. Some people might, but I think the point is that people don't read Iron Man to read you as Iron Man or Johnny Come Lately as Iron Man. They read Iron Man to read Tony Stark as Iron Man. Let's see. Quote, people are growing up loving Peter Parker, loving Miles Morales, loving Captain America, unquote. O'Leary added, quote, we don't need you to put your input in it. Just write Steve Rogers. don't write what would Steve Rogers be if I was Steve Rogers. um, that's not how it works. I think I think most of us are comic book fans and aficionados. I think there's a part of all of us that would love to hang out with those characters, not necessarily become those characters, but hang out with them. And when all is said and done, might be cool to just hang out and just chew the fat with Steve Rogers or with Peter Parker or with Bruce Banner or Jennifer Walters, or you might find yourself on Paradise Island or Themyscira. See if for most of us guys out there, single guys, see if you can try to pick up an Amazon or two, right? uh, yeah, but that's again how most of these new people write nowadays. That's why most of the stuff is bleep because um, readers in brackets don't care about what in brackets there a given writer would do because we don't care about your life whatsoever. Unquote. I know when Yellow Flash was talking about this too, he talked about that's why you see so many comics nowadays where the setting is at a coffee shop with the characters sitting around in a coffee shop just talking to themselves, right? They're talking to each other, right? Um, which is not exactly going to per se um, get people overly engaged. Quote, just write a book, get paid for what you do, get paid for what you're supposed to be doing, and make it a good story, unquote, he finally concluded. Quote, we don't need your opinions, unquote. And we've seen that. We've seen many fans basically, saying, well, you're gonna I don't want to be preached at, so I'm not gonna buy your book. Right? I'm not gonna put my hard earned money down to support you if you're just gonna preach at me all day. So, initially, O'Leary's take did not garner any widespread attention. As a writing, the relevant episode of The Comic Palace Reborn sits at only 5,516 views. However, this all changed when a few days after the premiere, the segment in question was clipped and shared to Twitter by user uh, Defnati. Defnati, not Definity or Definity, but Defnati. Oh yeah, and so Defnati, whoever he also tagged, of course, Bleeding Full, Marvel, DC, Jim Lee, the Jim Lee of DC, not Jim Lee. Some of us know. Todd McFarlane, C.B. Sobolski, Chris Braley, and Critical Blast. When O'Leary's opinion finally caught the attention of the very industry he was criticizing, its members chose to eschew showing any semblance of humility or self reflection in favor of not just insulting the frustrated shop owner, but blaming him for the problems that they themselves have wrought. All right. In a now deleted tweet, former Venom Volume 4 and Thor Volume 6 Okay, I don't know. Hey, they seem to be missing some information. Yeah, I'm guessing maybe that's Donny Cates, but in a now deleted tweet, former Venom Volume 4 and Thor Volume 6 creator, they're missing a few words here, dismissed O'Leary, sarcastically writing, quote, "Don't you guys hate how when you go into a hardware store, how the guy behind the counter always tells you how much hammers suck," unquote. Yeah. So, and I know Yellow Flash talked about this particular tweet from Donny Cates here. Um, Again, editing issue here. They skipped a few words there, but Yellow Flash even pointed out that's kind of not the best example to use because everybody's gonna need to use a hammer, you know. Let's see. The creator of Ahoy Comics, The Wrong Earth, Jamal Eagle, likewise claimed, quote, he's going to be real shocked about how all comics have been written and how writing in general works. His business is dying because he refuses to change with the times. No, that's not what. Basically, you're all trying to shut something down our throats, claiming that it's a changing of the times. Quote, there's a simple rule in sales, unquote, continued former Marvel Comics and DC artist, in response to a user questioning O'Leary's decision to publicly decry the abysmal state of the industry. Quote, showing contempt for the product shows contempt for the customer. Don't do it. Sell everything like you love it, unquote. Well, the thing is that, okay, here's the problem with that type of reasoning, though. Okay, no matter how no matter how much perfume you put on feces, okay, no matter how much perfume you put on feces, right? At the end of the day, you're still trying to deal with feces, okay? So, you know, my counterpoint to this guy Eagles' point here is that it's kind of like saying, trying to make feces, trying to make the waste that comes out of you a good thing by spraying it with perfume, right? No matter how much perfume you put on feces, at the end of the day, it's still feces. Okay? So, uh, anyways, um, in performing his own write-off of O'Leary's concerns, former Spider-Man franchise editor Tom Brennan asserted, quote, 30-year comic shop owner knows nothing about how comes have always been made. Yeah, I think that's supposed to be, again, another typo there. I think it's supposed to be how comics. But there are a lot of people who do write comics who don't agree with you guys either. Chuck Dixon, even Ben Skyver, John Malin, Gabe Eltabe, you know, um, those are some of at least the bigger names out. Joe Bennett, some of the bigger names out there that don't seem to agree with your line of thinking on that. Along his own thoughts, current carnage, or adding his own thoughts. Current Carnage Volume 3 and Detective Comics Volume 1 writer Ram V pushed back. Quote, anyone who describes writing as, quote, you get paid to write the stuff we want, in smaller quotes, has not a clue about what writing is about. Well, when you're dealing with somebody else's property, that's actually what you're supposed to be doing, quite honestly. This isn't really your characters. You're just being asked to write a story based on certain characters and still be respectful of the source material. So, and how can they say Detective Comics? Ram V would have to be quite old because Volume 1 of Detective Comics, unless it's from another company, but I doubt that. Volume 1 of Detective Comics started back up in 1930. Well, I guess if he's been around long enough, if he's been around for like 40 years or so, I guess 35, 40 years. Well, maybe even that, because since Volume 1 of Detective Comics did go all the way up till 2011, so I guess theoretically it's possible Randy could have written this part of that, but I don't know how many times people need to hear it. That is simply not how art or creativity works. It is when you're dealing with somebody else's property. Your point would probably be a little bit more valid if it was the property that you created, but you're not writing the property you created. You're coming in to write somebody else's property, to put a story together that still is respectful of the source material. Okay? That's not your character. You have to respect what's come before. And when you make some of the radical changes that you're making, you're basically wiping your rear end on somebody else's legacy, and that's just not cool. Oh. All right. So, anyways, getting back to the article here, retweeting these posts, Silver Surfer, Rebirth, and Warlock, Rebirth author Ron Mars affirmed, "quote This is not a restaurant, and you don't get to order what you want off the menu." Unquote. Asked by @SmithD33, quote, "Don't you though?" Unquote. Mars then elaborated on his argument, stating, quote, "No, you don't. At a restaurant, you order what you want. Say a steak medium rare with mashed potatoes, and it's made to order just for you. Batman comic or any comics are not made to order just for you. You buy or don't buy something that's already made." Unquote. Bad example here. Bad example, because here's the thing. granted, he's right in that comics are not necessarily made to order. But when you have a long history of something, right? You have a long established history, and you all of a sudden start making drastic changes to that history. You're basically flipping the bird to the people who originally created those properties. You're flipping the bird to the fans who supported those properties for many years, and you're gonna go broke over it. Okay? A recent good example of this, right? Tim Sheridan and the whole Alan Scott book, right? Where he decided that he was contrary to the well established history of Alan Scott of being a straight male who actually got married twice, fathered twins, right? You know, they decide they're going to turn him gay just so they can push an agenda. Okay, you know, and just completely instead of creating his own character to fill all this out, um, they and that book got panned. That book's not even in the top 50 on ICD2. I'm pretty sure of it from everything I've heard. You know, um, yeah. So while comics are not quote unquote made to order, okay, when you have characters with long histories, long well established histories, and you start messing around with them, you start flipping the bird to the people who originally created the character. You start flipping the bird to the customers who have very loyally supported those characters for years, just so you can push an agenda. That's just going to cause problems that you don't want. People are not going to buy your books. Tim Sheridan begged people to buy his book to try to stick it to Comicsgate. And he still got ridiculed for it. So, so basically, um, yet despite this widespread denigration from the very industry of which he relies on to make a living, O'Leary did not walk away from the discourse without his supporters. Not only did he receive written support from fan favorite Power Girl Volume 2 writer Jimmy Palmiotti, another guy who disagrees with a lot of these twidiots, who in a now deleted tweet revealed, quote, "It is something I tell newer writers all the time. Read all the history of the character and understand their motivations and why the audience fell in love with them." Amen to that. Amen to that. um, it will help you understand who they are. So if you change anything about them, it's in line with who they are. Unquote. But he was also invited to appear on the Ultimates Volume 1 writer Mark Miller's Miller Time live show to discuss the entire debacle. So there we go with that one. So basically, as I pointed out there, some of the pros did have some legitimate points. Yeah, they were right in that comics are not necessarily made to order. But you still should respect the established histories of the characters. Because when you don't, you're flipping the bird to not only the original creators, the people who actually originally created the character, but you're also flipping the bird to the fans who have longly and loyally supported those characters over the years. So that's just something to kind of take home with you on that thought process. Anyways, we're going to go a little over an hour here. That particular article took a while to get through. But anyways, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get to the wrestling wrap up here. We do have just a few bits of news items to go over, as it were. Actually, we just need the card for that one. We can talk about that. All right. So, anyways, in WWE news, let's see. Randy Orton recently gave an interview where he did talk about, now he's a 14-time world champion. Talked about how if his body holds up, he wouldn't mind, possibly trying to break the record for most world championships currently held by both Ric Flair and John Cena, or at least WWE World Heavyweight Championships of 16. He also, let's see, was there any, let's see, not that I could think of, let's see, anything else that came up on the WWE? Oh yeah, WWE is also considering maybe scaling back or limiting their house shows. They're also closing down their home video distribution in the United Kingdom. So that's going on. Now in AEW news, Bryan Danielson may have suffered another injury, as he's basically in his last year as a full-time competitor here now, as he recently announced. So he may have suffered another injury to his eye during his match with that was recorded. That happened last night at the Collision tapings that will be shown this Saturday. As for let's see, what else can we? Also, Sting, who has slated his last match to be happening at Revolution next year in early March, AEW Revolution 2024, has basically he was asked by Tony Khan if he'd be considered coming back for the All In show next year in Wembley Stadium, and he rejected that offer. I think he wants to go. I think Sting wants to go out with a bang. While he's still relatively healthy. Now, Grant, 64 years old. Few guys have wrestled well into that age. We know, of course, Terry Funk, who passed away this past year, wrestled well into his 70s. But Sting is going to be at. Sting has basically said that his final match will be at Revolution. He plans on going out at that point. Also, tonight's AEW Dynamite, we have, of course, a continuation of the Gold League matches in the Continental Classic tournament going on. Jon Moxley taking on Rush, Mark Briscoe taking on Swerve Strickland, and Jay Lethal taking on Jay White. Jay Lethal and Mark Briscoe are looking to get on the board to at least hopefully stay in the running, while Swerve Strickland and John Moxley look to really distance themselves from the competition in their matches. Two other matches happening tonight that are title matches. Tony Storm defends the women's world title against Sky Blue, and Christian Cage defends the TNT title against Adam Copeland. And of course, I'll go over the results of those matches tomorrow. So that's all we have for the wrestling wrap up. So we're going to go ahead, and now we're going to start to wind down with today being Wednesday, December 6th, 2023. Let's take a look back at this day. Meets history. History! So with that, first off, we're going to head back 75 years ago. As on this date, 75 years ago today, the fifth issue of Saddle Justice, which started out as Happy Hula Hymns for the first two issues of this book. This bi-monthly title sold for 10 cents for 32 pages. The fifth issue of Saddle Justice went on sale from EC Comics on this date 75 years ago today. 75 years ago today, the fifth issue of Saddle Justice from EC went on sale on this date back on this date 1948. Moving on to the next piece in each history here. On this date 25 years ago today, in one of the few times in which the WWF held an UK-only pay-per-view event, WWF on this date 25 years ago today held its Capital Carnage event from the London Arena in London, England. Of course, the main event saw Steve Austin defeat Kane, Mankind, and Undertaker in a fatal four-way with Joe Briscoe as a special guest referee. Also saw The Rock retain the WWF Championship over X-Pac via DQ. New Age Outlaws retained the WWF Tag Team Championships over D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry. Triple H defeated Jeff Jarrett in just under 7 minutes. Ken Shamrock, who they did recently point out might be coming back to the WWF in the near future. That was another thing I kind of forgot to mention. But anyways, Ken Shamrock retained the WWF Intercontinental Championship in a match over Steve Blackman. In a mixed tag match, Sable and Christian defeated Jacqueline and Mark Merrow. Tiger Ali Singh defeated Edge in just under 3 minutes. Let's see. The Headbangers defeated the Legion of Doom in the form of Draws and Animal. And to open up the show, Gangrel defeated Al Snow. So on this date, 25 years ago today, Capital Carnage from the London Arena in London, England. And finally, 15 years ago today, in 2008, on this day in 2008, Nickelodeon debuted the show Random Cartoons. So let's see. Random Cartoons is an American animated anthology series aired on Nicktoons. Much like Oh Yeah Cartoons, it was created by Fred Siebert and produced by Fred Raider Studios and Nickelodeon Animation Studios. It premiered on December 6, 2018 and ended December 20th, 2009, or 2008 rather. So, Random Cartoons was a Nickelodeon project that ran for a year. Was originally supposed to be part of the Oh Yeah cartoon series, but anyways, with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Tomorrow night, of course, we will look at the Indie Comics Showcase and Bleeding Fool. And Friday, of course, I'll have Tim Olson with me as we will be looking back at comics that went on sale in January 1940 from this case from Marvel. So with that, I hope everybody enjoyed the show tonight, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.